in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I saw him do this live in 1986. And I'm like, wow, this is a great, great song. It was the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty. Anybody remember that in 1986? We went nuts. Just like we went nuts in 1976 for the 200th anniversary. And hopefully it's going to kick ass this time around. It's the kickoff to the summer, baby. A special summer, 2026. America 250. What the hell does it mean to be American anymore, huh? It's a little confusing sometimes. I remember learning about our founding fathers. They were great men. And then we found out that they're just a bunch of racists. Are you kidding me? And by the way, it's not like they kept things secret from us. I remember learning as a kid that Jefferson had slaves. It was like, wow, there's good and bad in everybody, right? But America's still special. Made some mistakes, yeah, but it's great. So it became so fashionable to step all over America by Americans. Anyway, 50 years ago on the 200th anniversary, it was the bicentennial, and it was a beautiful thing. And everybody was into it. Everybody. I'm sure there were some people who weren't, right? But they didn't rule the day. The big networks, everybody, TV, newspaper, the community, Baldwin, New York, great big. Every town had had great big parades, not just one parade. I dressed up as a colonial soldier, and so did my brother. Dressed up as Ben Franklin. It was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot. Anyway, we're 250 now. Happy Memorial Day. Is it really? I always feel funny about saying Happy Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a day dedicated to those who have died in the service of their country in uniform. And I think of some specific people that I knew that died in plane crashes while I was a pilot in the 1990s, and several different guys in different plane crashes. You may know, well, a lot of us 9/11, right? But imagine people like routinely dying in plane crashes. It was crazy. Mark Sharp, Glenn Blaisdell, Dale Mulkey, Steve Freeman, just the four guys I knew the best, and plenty of others. But those are the guys I knew the best. Hey, it is Memorial Day. That means we can, do summer stuff from here on out till Labor Day. 3 glorious months. And I want to savor them. And I really want to get into this America 250 thing. Although I will not be going to the World Cup. No World Cup for me. You know who was president 50 years ago? A guy who's very, very underrated and often overlooked. Gerald R. Ford, the 38th president of the United States. He was president for 2.5 years or so? Lost a very close race to Jimmy Carter. But I saw he was a remarkable man in so many ways, and a good, gentle man. And he did the right thing by the country. And I want to play something for you that I thought, man, President Trump is the greatest president. He's got to fight. He's got to fight. He's got to fight to stay alive. He's got to fight for the country. Who knew? Who knew that there would be this liberal left lunatic mob that would want to destroy it all? And not just on the streets. I mean, members of Congress, members of the United States Senate, the previous president, the previous vice president. He's got to fight. And that the New York Times would cancel itself. That the New York Times would again deny anti-Semitism and thus engage in anti-Semitism. I thought we'd be further along, right? But a couple of good things. Hey, we're going back to the moon, kinda. All right, so look, I want you to hear this. It shows a president being merciful and kind and just taking the presidency so seriously, as I know President Trump does. But this is a blast from the past. This is, September of 1974, when Gerald Ford announces the pardon of Richard Nixon, who had just resigned. And it's really quite something. And you'll hear something that most presidents can't articulate. Okay? Very interesting for me to hear this. You ready, everybody? Okay. It's only it's a few minutes long. I may jump in from time to time. But it's deep. And it's inspiring to me. Go ahead.
I have learned already in this office that the difficult decisions always come to this desk. I must admit that many of them do not look at all the same as the hypothetical questions that I have answered freely and perhaps too fast on previous occasions. My customary policy is to try and get all the facts and to consider the opinions of my countrymen and to take counsel with my most valued friends. But these seldom agree, and in the end, the decision is mine. To procrastinate, to agonize, and to wait for a more favorable turn of events that may never come, or more compelling external pressures that may as well be wrong as right, is itself a decision of sorts and a weak and potentially dangerous course for a president to follow. I have promised to uphold the Constitution, to do what is right as God gives me to see the right, and to do the very best that I can for America. I have asked your help and your prayers, not only when I became president, but many times since. The Constitution is the supreme law of our land, and it governs our actions as citizens. Only the laws of God, which govern our consciences, are superior to it. As we are a nation under God, so I am sworn to uphold our laws with the help of God. And I have sought such guidance and searched my own conscience with special diligence to determine the right thing for me to do with respect to my predecessor in this place, Richard Nixon, and his loyal wife and family. Theirs is an American tragedy in which we all have played a part. It could go on and on and on, or someone must write the end to it. I have concluded that only I can do that, and if I can, I must. There are no historic or legal precedents to which I can turn in this matter, none that precisely fit the circumstances of a private citizen who has resigned the presidency of the United States. But it is common knowledge that serious allegations and accusations hang like a sword over our former president's head, threatening his health as he tries to reshape his life, a great part of which was spent in the service of this country and by the mandate of its people. After years of bitter controversy and divisive national debate, I have been advised, and I am compelled to conclude, that many months and perhaps more years will have to pass before Richard Nixon could obtain a fair trial by jury in any jurisdiction of the United States under governing decisions of the Supreme Court. I deeply believe in equal justice for all Americans, whatever their station or former station. The law, whether human or divine, is no respecter of persons, but the law is a respecter of reality. The facts, as I see them, are that a former president of the United States, instead of enjoying equal treatment with any other citizen accused of violating the law, would be cruelly and excessively penalized either in preserving the presumption of his innocence or in obtaining a speedy determination of his guilt in order to repay a legal debt to society. During this long period of delay and potential litigation.
You know, you compare this to what Joe Biden did, signing those things on the way out the door, and virtually no scrutiny, right? It was like a 2-hour story, and that was it. He pardons his brother, he pardons his son, he pardons and his other brother, sister, Fauci, Milley, Liz Cheney, Schiff, all these criminals, and that's it. People forget. And when you accept a pardon, it's an admission of wrongdoing, criminal wrongdoing. It is. And I forgot about that. This is a great man delivering a great speech. And on this Memorial Day, I think it's suitable to recognize it, actually. There's something it's bigger than Nixon and the pardon. It's bigger. What we're hearing is selflessness. Keep going.
Ugly passions would again be aroused, and our people would again be polarized in their opinions. And the credibility of our free institutions of government would again be challenged at home and abroad. In the end, the courts might well hold that Richard Nixon had been denied due process, and the verdict of history would even more be inconclusive with respect to those charges arising out of the period of his presidency of which I am presently aware. But it is not the ultimate fate of Richard Nixon that most concerns me, though surely it deeply troubles every decent and every compassionate person. My concern is the immediate future of this great country. In this, I dare not depend upon my personal sympathy as a longtime friend of the former president, nor my professional judgment as a lawyer, and I do not. As president, my primary concern must always be the greatest good of all the people of the United States, whose servant I am. As a man, my first consideration is to be true to my own convictions and my own conscience. My conscience tells me clearly and certainly that I cannot prolong the bad dreams that continue to reopen a chapter that is closed. My conscience tells me that only I, as president, have the constitutional power to firmly shut and seal this book. My conscience tells me it is my duty not merely to proclaim domestic tranquility, but to use every means that I have to ensure it. I do believe that the buck stops here, that I cannot rely upon public opinion polls to tell me what is right. I do believe that right makes might, and that if I am wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference. I do believe with all my heart and mind and spirit that I, not as president, but as a humble servant of God, will receive justice without mercy if I fail to show mercy. Finally, I feel that Richard Nixon and his loved ones have suffered enough and will continue to suffer no matter what I do, no matter what we, as a great and good nation, can do together to make his goal of peace come true. Now, therefore, I, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States, pursuant to the pardon power conferred upon me by Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, have granted, and by these presents do grant, a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from July 20, 1969 through August 9.
How about that? How about that? I think he made a mistake with the date. I think it's supposed to be January 20th, not July 20, all the way up to the end of his presidency. That was selfless, and that decision pretty much lost Gerald Ford the presidency. It was very unpopular, very controversial, but it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and hearing a president sound it out like that. Well, happy Memorial Day, even though it's not happy. It's a commemoration. We're going to talk to one of the great heroes in my life and in America coming up. Ray Kelly, longest-serving police commissioner in New York history, and a United States Marine Corps combat veteran of Vietnam. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
To say that we are closer to victory today is to believe, in the face of the evidence, the optimists who have been wrong in the past. To suggest we are on the edge of defeat is to yield to unreasonable pessimism. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only realistic, if unsatisfactory, conclusion. On the off chance the military and political analysts are right, in the next few months we must test the enemy's intentions in case this is indeed his last big gasp before negotiations. But it is increasingly clear to this reporter that the only rational way out then will be to negotiate, not as victors, but as honorable people who lived up to their pledge to defend democracy and did the best they could. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.
Walter Cronkite. His take on the Vietnam War. You know, just like the fake news. Drops over there for 20 minutes, comes home, thinks he knows everything. Well, on this Memorial Day, I'm privileged to talk to my father, Ray Kelly, the longest-serving police commissioner in New York history. First to serve non-consecutive terms under 2 different mayors, and also a Vietnam War veteran and a great dad. We had so many laughs growing up. Ray Kelly, Dad, how are you?
I'm good, Greg. Great to be with you on this Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. You know, I remember talking Memorial Day with you, and we were looking at a picture, I think, of your OCS class. This is when we were growing up in Baldwin, and you were like, just kind of matter-of-factly, oh, that I said, who's this guy? And said, he stepped on a mine. Who's this guy? Oh, he died some other way. You know a lot of people who died in Vietnam, don't you?
Yes, I do. And if anybody who was there would be in the same boat. It's just a lot of people lost their lives in Vietnam. 58,000 American troops, which is an incredible number. But that was the cost that was paid by, to a large extent, draftees in those days.
The draft, right. And, you know, it's interesting, though, you were there for a year, and I believe the 1966, and there were significant casualties in 1966. You get home, And I remember you saying you were a little bit surprised, or a lot surprised, because this war that had surrounded you every day for a year was barely in the news. I mean, it was in the news, but it was like page 20, right?
True, absolutely. I thought that it was the number one issue back in the United States. It certainly was not. And in those days, they would actually put casualty count, how many people who were killed in the past week, U.S. troops. And the numbers were sometimes incredible. Over 300 was a number that you would see. Not every week, of course, but it was very jolting to realize how many people lost their lives there for not very much.
How did it, what was it like for you? What was the experience like when you, if somebody asked you to sum it up? Hey, you were in Vietnam? Wow. What was that like? What was it like?
Well, it was tiring. It was demanding. When you're an officer, obviously, you have to be alert, aware, 24 hours. I learned an awful lot. And all in all, when I look back on it, it was a positive experience for me. And I think a lot of people would say that too, because they learned leadership. They learned how to get along with the troops. And it was invigorating sometimes.
It's interesting.
But, of course, it just wound down to being something that just, wasted lives for no legitimate reason.
It's fascinating though, and I know what you're talking about. It weirdly, war can be a positive experience. It's hell, true, but it's we have the profession of arms, and you were a professional. I have thought that, I think you tell me, please, but the stereotypical or the archetypal, Vietnam veteran and flashbacks and drug abuse and all that stuff, I've always felt that was overstated and mythologized a little bit. And you and I actually haven't talked about that in a very long time. I can't remember talking. Do you buy that? Do you think did they come back with real problems, or has that been exaggerated by the news?
No, I think it's been exaggerated. I never saw any drug abuse in Vietnam. I never saw even marijuana. People talk like it was everywhere. It wasn't everywhere. I certainly didn't see it. Did some people come back with problems? Sure. In any war that's going to happen. But by and large, people were proud that they served and that they, participated in the war. You once wrote an editorial in the Times that says, in essence, the soldiers, the Marines fight for the person next to them, not for some ephemeral reason. It's to do with what will my compatriots think of me, and what can I do? How did I comport myself? That was a very, very insightful piece that you did.
Yeah, thank you.
You remember that, right?
I sure do. Published in the New York Times, Greg Kelly on the op-ed page. And I said, if all politics is local, that's what they used to say. Well, so is morale. And it's kind of applicable to the civilian world. I mean, whatever your job is, let's say you're in sales. Let's say you sell dental supplies, right? And I know somebody who's a dental supply person, and they actually love their job. Now, are they that passionate about dental supplies? Maybe, maybe not. But this guy's passionate about his job and being number one every month. That's what drives him. And I think it's the same way. You're in the military, and the patriotic part sometimes is a little bit of an accessory. And I hate to, people are surprised. You join the military, of course. It's altruistic, but it's also, hey, this is interesting for me. And you have a reputation to uphold, and you got people on your left and your right. And it gets right down to it. You want to do well among your peers where you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's very interesting, though. Very interesting. Did you feel that kind of pressure, peer pressure?
Oh, when you say you feel it, it just exists. It's around. It's not a question of even thinking so much about it. I think things are done sort of automatically that you don't even realize. That has to do with what your peers think of you and see you in action.
We were talking about the combat deaths. They also happen in peacetime a lot. People overlook this, or they happen during wartime, but in training back home. This is a report, and by the way, there are literally hundreds of reports like this, but this is one that I kind of picked out of the basket. 5 deaths in a helicopter crash, a Marine helicopter crash in California. And it's a dangerous line of work, whether you're in the Persian Gulf or you're in Orange County, California. Go ahead, if you don't mind.
Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego, where those 5 Marines were based. They were heading back here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning when their helicopter, CH-53E Super Stallion, crashed. Families and friends have been sharing support and tributes online. And we spoke to 23-year-old Sergeant Alec Lincoln's sister. Take a listen.
He died doing what he loved. I know that he didn't want to leave any of us, but that he's going to be there protecting us for the rest of our lives.
Elizabeth is Alec Lincoln's big sister. She says losing Alec leaves a void in their family no one can fill.
He's not going to be there for the monumental life things. He's not going to be there for the small day-to-day things like watching TV or in the group chat, like making funny jokes about our dad's head shape.
Captain Benjamin Moulton, Captain Jack Casey, Captain Miguel Nava, and Lance Corporal Donovan Davis died with Lincoln when their CH-53E went down overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. 28-year-old Captain Miguel Nava, pictured here, was born and raised in Michigan. His decorations include the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Sea Service Deployment Ribbon. 27-year-old Captain Benjamin Moulton from Idaho, pictured here, was awarded the National Defense Service Medal. Lizzie says Alec had just gotten married a month ago in Sedona, and one of the last times they'd shared together alone, Alec confided in his sister on his wedding day.
I wasn't nervous up until now, but I know that she's my forever, and she's my person, and I can't wait for her to be a Langan. We're a military family, and you hear of people dying all the time. We've had family friends that have passed. We've had friends that we've known who have committed suicide. We've seen it all, and you never expect that your fun-loving brother or son are going to be the ones.
The latest from the Marine Corps is that they are still working to recover the bodies of those 5 Marines from the rough, rugged terrain in Pine Valley. Also, the investigation continues into why their helicopter went down. Reporting for CBS 8, I'm Kirsten Holmes. Back to you.
It's domestic. It happened in California, and it happens all the time. It happens rather routinely, and you get used to it. And I don't think the American public knows about it. And that's okay, and we had a cousin who flew that very helicopter, right, Dad?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I read someplace that the military averages a death a day in training. Just as you said, people think that it's okay. Combat obviously is dangerous, but training can be very dangerous as well. And it's a tough profession, tough business. It's unforgiving because all the services have very demanding training experiences, training exercises that put young soldiers, Marines at risk. But that's what's felt that has to be done to prepare them for war.
It does seem to me like the military is on much better footing now than it was under Joe Biden. I mean, some of the stuff that they got those generals to do and say, I thought was pretty astounding. And I think you've seen on my show over the years, and this happened under Republicans and Democrats, but general officers who would get up and say, everything's going fine in Iraq, everything's going fine in Afghanistan, especially Afghanistan, and it's interesting. The military is kind of can-do attitude, and you got to have a can-do attitude, and the mission must be accomplished no matter what. We take away resources, we're still going to get the mission done. And I feel like the military, it took a big hit, let's face it, during Vietnam. And I think it took another hit with Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think it's on its way back in a big way. How do you feel?
Well, we hear that the recruitment numbers are way up, and we know that they had great difficulty recruiting in the last administration. So that's a good sign, because, of course, we have a volunteer force. We need people who voluntarily go into the military. We have, I think it's 1.3 million people in the military service now. That's a lot of folks. And that needs a steady stream of volunteers now. And apparently it's picked up again, and I think that's good news for the country.
Well, I'm glad that you served, because I wouldn't have served if you hadn't served. And people ask me, why'd you go in? And it was your example. And I remember somebody said, did he push you to join? I said, no, certainly not. You never did, but you certainly, you just led by example. And I think that's what you do. I asked you once, why did you pick the Marines? And you said, because they're the best. And I just thought, wow, that's.
Greg, I had all three of my older brothers who were in the Marine Corps. You obviously were in the Marine Corps. Your cousins, Mark and Brian Duffy, were in the Marine Corps. And, we have a lot of relatives, if you go back, that were in the Marine Corps, that were in World War II. So I think we can be justly proud of the contributions that the Kellys made protecting our country.
So true. Your oldest brother, Leonard, my uncle Leonard, your second older brother, Ken, my uncle Kenneth, and Donald, who died recently. Your brother Donald, my uncle Donald, all Marines, and you, of course, and Brian Duffy and Mark Duffy, and while I'm at it, my cousin Tim Clark on the other side joined the Navy, and he did a great job. He did a great job. He's done a great job, too, raising a great family out in San Francisco. Well, Ray Kelly, it's going to be a great summer, I feel like. One more thing. Do you remember, as fondly as I do, the summer of 1976? This is America 250, the 250th anniversary. The bicentennial in 1976 was a big, big, big deal, and the Kelly family was all in.
Yeah, we were in. It was a harbor. Basically, it has to do with the Brooklyn Bridge. No, that was '86. Yeah.
Operation Sail. Operation Sail.
Operation Sail. That was it. Yeah, and I think your mom was in the Coast Guard then, and she participated in that regard, in that status.
And she got us onto Governor's Island, I think.
That's right. Yeah, right.
Well, Ray Kelly, my dad, you say hi to Mom, and have a great Memorial Day.
Okay, you too, pal.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon. I'm very, very blessed. Very blessed. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
They step out of line. They persecute, harass, over-prosecute So many of my friends, January 6ers, thank God for President Trump. All right, so what he has done is amazing. And it's very beautiful, actually, what he did. You know, the pardon first, the pardon on his very first night in, and he didn't have to do it. It was the right thing to do, and that's why he did it. What about the officers who were attacked? Look at the footage. I have been looking at that footage left and right. I don't see any officers attacked. I see some pushing and shoving. I see officers wailing on people with bats. I see officers shooting people. I don't see the officers being attacked. I don't. You talking about that scuffle by the bike rack? You're going to put somebody in jail for 14 years for that? So this is what really bothers me right now. President Trump, and I love this part, has set aside $1.8 billion for wrongful imprisonment, the weaponization fund. If the government has been weaponized and used against you, you can reach out and make a claim. And there are a lot of people. I guess I think about my friend Christopher Cuny, who didn't hurt anybody, didn't break anything on January 6th, walked around the Capitol, went through an open door, and was inside for about 5 minutes, told somebody to put away a marijuana blunt, picked up some trash, and left. And they sent the SWAT team into his house, the SWAT team. And they're still, and the legal fees and everything else. He did go to jail for 4 months. 4 months. And they sent the SWAT team into his house. FBI SWAT team terrorized. That man deserves some money, some compensation for the pain and suffering. And it's just like President Trump to actually be the only one who can see that. And right now, I see these weak, foolish Republicans. Democrats, I don't expect anything from. But John Thune and Tom Tillis and others, they are saying no way are they going to go along with this. And I know where these guys, I know why. All right. These are very soft people. They're very soft. They've been in politics their entire life. They've never really done anything. Mitch McConnell is a great example of this. He is so soft, so precious, right? Such a little, he's been in school and then he's been a legislator, school to the legislature, right? Pens and pencils his whole life. That's it. That's it. And he is intimidated and bedazzled by anything law enforcement. And I revere law enforcement, but I also I'm savvy. All right. I understand that the cops overdo it sometimes. I understand that there are professional police departments and then there are bogus police departments. Just about everything on Capitol Hill is backwards. Remember when they had their own bank and they let everybody bounce checks and that they got that goofy post office up there? Even the gym is a bit of a scam on Capitol Hill. And of course, their police department is backwards. Totally backwards. They shoot an unarmed woman and all the cops get and allow thousands of people inside and they get medals, gold medals, and they get, the bonus, a cash bonus. So John Thune is the Senate Majority Leader, and I think he is not to be trusted. Obviously, he's trying to stick it to Trump. I see this video circulating, and it reminds everybody where the hell this guy came from. Okay? He's a Bush. He's working for the Bushes. He's working for the Cheneys. These are some highlights from his career. And when he was just starting out, moving on up to the U.S. Senate, I think he started in the House. John Thune. Pretty boy John Thune. Got to watch out for these excessively good-looking men. All right? They're almost all the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. They're not to be trusted. John Thune. Pretty boy. John Thune wants to turn this fund off or make such glaring, they want to carve out. If you were accused of doing something to a police officer, some of these guys were fighting for their lives against police officers. And I'm sorry, what they were just I don't care who's coming at me. If it's a cop, I'm going to fight for my right to live. Ashley Babbitt was murdered that day. There could have been more. And Roseanne Boyland, I have not done enough for her memory. I haven't. As President Trump says, that case is a little bit more, I think he said a little bit more ambivalent, or we are ambivalent, or it's a little less clear. So who the hell is John Thune trying to screw up President Trump's agenda? Let's find out. Go ahead.
John Thune understands and was raised with the value that you're supposed to keep your word. Here because I believe in John Thune, the person. I believe in those South Dakota values which are deeply ingrained in his heart. I know how he was raised. He was raised by folks who loved him, and they brought some common sense to him. Most importantly, he's never forgot where he came from. See, he was raised to believe in the value of family. He understands the importance of family.
Hey, stop for a second. This is so hokey. It's just so hokey when you really think about it. Just says like that, and then he was raised by people who love him. Well, so was the son of Sam. What difference does that make? This hokiness, right? All right. This is not why they picked him. They didn't pick him because his mama loves him. They picked him because he's going to work for them. There's like nothing special about this guy. It's just, that's it. They're going to own him. Keep going.
He's got a great family. Kimberly and Brittany and Larissa, when they came up to the White House to talk about making this race, there's no question in my mind. And when it comes to making sure our benches are full of good and decent people, I can count on the support of Senator John Thune. Thank you for supporting John. May God bless you. May God bless America.
I do not like this man. Creepy cutaways of him hanging with the Cheneys and the Bushes. He's trying to stick it to Trump. Yeah. The music is kind of creepy. John Thune, kind of scary.
We're Democrats. You've talked with one key Republican, though, who thought it was important to come.
David, it is striking that for the most part, Republicans are absent from this commemoration. Republican leaders in the House and the Senate are not in Capitol Hill. They are not in Washington. They are not taking part in these commemorations at all. There is one very notable exception, and I just spoke to him minutes before he walked onto the House chamber to be there for that moment of silence, and that is the former Vice President, Dick Cheney, one of the most prominent Republican elder statesmen alive in America today. He decided to be here today. He came with his daughter Liz, who is another one of the very few Republicans taking part of this, obviously a central figure in the January 6th committee investigating what happened 1 year ago today. And Dick Cheney was there. I spoke to him briefly before he walked into the House chamber, and he told me, I said, why are you here? Why did you feel it was important to be here? And he told me it is an important historical event. You can't overestimate how important it is, referring to this anniversary of January 6th. And then he told me something that I think will make a lot of waves today, David. He told me that he is deeply disappointed in the Republican leadership. Those are his exact words. He said, I am deeply disappointed in the Republican leadership. And he was specifically talking about how they have handled the events of January 6th and the aftermath, and what he described as a failure to defend the Constitution. And he is telling them today that he is disappointed in how they have handled January 6th and the aftermath.
John Carl reporting here, very strong words from a former Vice President Dick Cheney today, who decided to come to the Capitol on this day, certainly not only to support democracy, but his daughter, one of the lone Republicans on that committee investigating January.
So this is what we're getting at here. John Thune. John Thune puts out on social media, January 6th, a sad day for America. The violent behavior at the Capitol is inexcusable and disgusting, but we won't be deterred from our constitutional duty. We need to work together to protect our democracy. So he is just either a dupe or he was a duper. One or the other. A dupe, he was duped, or he was duping. Pick it up if you don't mind.
January 6th.
Because of his position in the U.S. Senate, Senator John Thune was rushed to a secure location with other top leaders.
It was a pretty
angry, unruly mob. I mean, as I was leaving, there were people yelling profanities, and they'd broken all the perimeters into the Capitol.
On Twitter that day, South Dakota's senior senator called the actions of the crowd inexcusable and disgusting.
Like Caesar, he is surrounded by enemies and something's underway, but it has no face, yet everybody in the loop knows.
All of us discovered that we're at our best when we're all moving in the same direction.
All three of us were lucky to be the president of this country.
There's been no vote, nothing's on paper, there's no one to blame. It's as old as the crucifixion. Military firing squad. 5 bullets, 1 blank, no one's guilty, because everyone in the power structure who knows anything has a plausible deniability.
They've been waiting for this, for trespassing on the Capitol grounds.
But what's paramount is that it must succeed. No matter how many die, no matter how much it costs, the perpetrators must be on the winning side and never subject to prosecution for anything by anyone.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, Vice President Joe. That was all set up.
That is a coup d'etat.
Wow. A very interesting point of view, because this is what goes with that. John Thune called a recess until June in the Senate. Till June in the Senate. What the hell? This is where you keep everybody there. You keep everybody there over Memorial Day weekend. But this guy was handpicked by the Cheneys. How about that? John Thune, the Republican Senate leader, tried to push for Cheney to lie in state at the rotunda. Did you know that? I didn't know that. A sitting president was not invited. President Trump. This guy is so bad, and he's trying to screw up the agenda. He is loyal to the Bushes. I don't think he's loyal to the country. Well, his version of loyalty, all right? I don't want to say I'm not prepared to say he's a traitor. But he is a low life. These guys work for themselves on this Memorial Day. Let me see. Did he ever, sometimes these guys, nope, he never did get around to joining the military, and that's okay. That's all right. That's the way the system works. But sometimes, when you have a guy like that, they feel very, very vulnerable and kind of embarrassed about not having served. Right? So they'll give in to the people in uniform. They'll give in to the Capitol Police, even when it's totally corrupt. And they'll back them because they're buddies with them. John Thune is trying to block this thing. He wants to block the SAVE Act. He wants to block the compensation for January 6ers. And this is what we got. Democrats would never stand for a traitor in their ranks, right? Traitor to the cause. Be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?